This is your advanced class, and today we have as our panelists.
Hi, I'm Hazel.
And I'm Serena.
And I'm Doris, so stay tuned as we talk about a true story. Well, thanks for being on our program. We know that most of the time Hazel and Serena are doing Let's Talk and other studio classroom programs, but we always like it when you come to Advanced.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, especially when it's about pets.
Yes, that's right, because you're both animal lovers and have pets. In fact, your pets are in the magazine, aren't they?
Right.
We talked about that the last couple of days. Well, you know, we often talk about technology and business and so many heavy subjects, but we thought it would be nice to have something a little lighter. And I think these articles are more about compassion that we're talking about the last couple of days.
Right, and we had an article the last few days that talked about passion in action, actually having compassion and doing something.
That's true, and we talked about taking care of pets that people have. And this is not part of that article, but it is the same subject because it has to do with animals and with pets.
That's right. And since we all love to talk about pets, it's a great article for today. I bet some of our listeners have pets.
Well, I think they do. And, you know, I think there's a lot of pet stories and animal stories. In fact, we could talk about our pets all day, but we better talk about this article. Isn't that right?
That's right.
But, you know, this is a true story, and people like stories. This is something that happened, and I think it's quite unusual. Don't you think so?
It is unusual. I think similar situations, similar stories are true too. But we have one instance of this little girl who wanted a pet, and we'll see that she got a very special pet.
And that's on page 16. So if you have your magazine or you're listening in, if you're listening in the car, don't open your magazine because you're driving. But you might be listening to your maybe your mobile website. Who knows?
Oh, that's true. But
yeah, you can hear the program every day on the mobile website, right? So let's start out today's lesson talking about parents who had a daughter with an amputated arm. That sounds like a sad story right there.
It is. So we know that her arm had to be taken off. So she's only got one arm, little girl. It says, parents get daughter with amputated arm, perfect companion in once mangled kitten.
Ooh, a mangled kitten sounds terrible to me. A mangled means that its arm got caught in the washing machine or something. What do I mean?
Right.
Mangled, it was all twisted up.
Right. To be destroyed or maybe torn into pieces.
Yeah, somehow. Maybe a dog bit it. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe. Sometimes cats like to sleep inside of car engines, and that's another way it could get mangled. So we can just use your imagination, but it's a terrible thing to think about.
Mangled is terrible. Yeah. Well, let's find out about this story because this was a little kitten, and it's a good story, but there's also some very good advanced words. So think, well, I'm a businessman. I don't need to study about kittens. You might need these words in here because the vocabulary is great, isn't it?
And that's right. In the first paragraph, we see the word insurmountable.
And that's what we're going to talk about.
Right.
And so don't think that this is just for people who like sob stories. This is a good story with good vocabulary. So stay tuned as we read the very first paragraph.
Parents get daughter with amputated arm, perfect companion in once mangled kitten. A kitten that was severely injured and not expected to survive got a new home with a Trabuco Canyon, California family that has also faced seemingly insurmountable odds. Veterinary officials at a California animal shelter had to amputate the cat's damaged leg and didn't anticipate it would make it through the next morning. But it did. And its story inspired Matt Tipton and his wife, Simone.
So right here we have an introduction to this paragraph. We find out that there was a little kitten, a kitten that was severely injured and not expected to survive. So like we imagined before, we really don't know how this little kitten got injured, but we know that it was mangled, so it was very severe, and it wasn't expected to live.
But it did.
But
That's
it did.
the good
because
part, right?
The next phrase says it got a new home.
Right.
Okay?
And the story about that, it inspired this man, Matt Tipton, and his wife, Simone, in a certain way. So we're going to find out about that. So everybody likes a good story. And this is a true story, right? Now, say, who cares about a little kitten? No, let it die. But these vets, they care about people. And somebody rescued that cat. Maybe it was run over by a car or a dog bit it. Who knows? But anyway, it was just a little kitten and almost died, but the vet saved its life. And that's kind of nice right there.
Right. And the second part of that openings tells us that there was a family that also had faced seemingly insurmountable odds. So not only was this kitten facing a difficult time, but also there was a family that faced insurmountable odds.
Well, and the name of the next section is a perfect companion. Cats purr. So instead of just spelling the word perfect, P-E-R-F-E-C-T, they're making it like a cat's purr. Can you purr like a cat?
A purr is like a quiet, soft sound a cat makes.
And when that's one thing, dogs don't purr when you pet them, do they? But cats do. Elephants make it like
they
a purr.
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't have any pet elephants.
But what is that phrase, insurmountable odds?
Well, that means something that you cannot get over. It's a difficulty that there's no way you're going to be able to handle it. It's something you cannot solve very easily.
Right.
Something you can't overcome, a challenge that it seems like you can't overcome.
What are we going to do? This is terrible.
It's so great that it seems like it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, it's not easy, right? So let's find out how these two have some connection, the kitten and this little kid, this little baby, this girl. Okay, let's read the next section.
A perfect companion. The couple decided the cat would be a perfect companion for their 2-year-old daughter, Scarlett, whose arm was amputated in October 2014 after she was diagnosed with a rare soft tissue cancer. Simone Tipton said it was important for her daughter to understand that in spite of her circumstances, she persevered, and that she's not the only one to have faced adversities. We really wanted her to grow up with something that was able to understand what she's been through, even though an animal can't speak, said Tipton. She would grow up knowing that she's not the only one.
So, to continue the story, this couple said, our little girl needs a pet. Maybe a cat would be right.
Right. And she also has an amputated arm.
Right, because their 2-year-old daughter, her name was Scarlett, and her arm was amputated because she had kind of a cancer. And probably if they didn't take her arm off, cut it off, that might spread through her whole body and kill her, don't you think?
Right, that's probably
why they had
happened.
to amputate the arm. That would be very hard to have a 2-year-old girl and have to have her arm amputated.
No,
Wouldn't that be hard?
I can't even imagine. It says here that she was diagnosed with a rare soft tissue cancer. So
right. So they decided they'd get a little cat for her, and they went to some clinic, right?
Right. Remember in the first paragraph, or the second, that said that they were inspired by the story. So somehow they had heard about this little kitten that somehow survived, even though it was
Maybe it was in the paper or something.
Okay,
like that.
yeah. Even though it was against insurmountable odds. And so they said it was important for her daughter to understand more about the circumstances. She was a lot like this little kitten, right? The little girl had an arm amputated. The little kitten had a leg amputated. And so maybe
she's not the only one that had
That's
problems.
right.
You don't have your arm, but so does that little cat.
They could understand one another.
And kids really do associate it. They love pets and animals. They love to think about how they can relate to pets more than to people when they're little.
Right. And the little kitten would persevere and learn how to do things with a missing leg. And so the little girl also needed to learn to persevere.
Well, these kind of things that are very difficult, they seem insurmountable. We call these adversities sometimes.
Right, and adversities are, it's a difficult or unlucky situation that you're caught up in.
Right. Hard times. It could be for different reasons, but it could be health, it could be financial or earthquakes or anything, adversities, just things that are not very lucky and not very,
Right.
They're hard.
Sometimes we might say face difficulties or challenges.
Hardships.
So, right. So they heard about this cat. Maybe it was in the news. Who knows? They probably had something in the news about this little cat that was struggling, and it made it. And then they thought, well, my daughter's struggling too, so let's go and see this little cat. That was kind of cute, wasn't it? That's a nice story. And so they decided that they wanted their daughter to understand that sometimes not only people but animals, other people have difficulties, and she's not the only one that has to try to get along. I think that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Right. And here they said we really wanted her to grow up with something that was able to understand what she's been through.
Do you ever think that your cat understands you?
Oh, and cats and dogs? Sure they do.
I think he understands me very well.
No, I ask that because sometimes if I'm not feeling well or I'm
And
depressed,
they seem to know it. Yeah.
the dog will come up and maybe put her head on my lap or
Yeah,
something.
they do.
seem to
Yeah.
understand when you're not
Yeah, they
feeling
do.
well.
They do.
Yeah, animals do. That's true.
Yeah, so I think that was, we think, oh, come on, this little kitten's not going to understand. But, cats do have a way. And how much they understand, we don't know, but we
But
feel
they
that.
do. When you're sick, they seem to know it.
Yeah.
Well, one thing also about the parents here is that we had one of our teachers at one time in studio classroom who had polio when he was little, and his parents. So, and he couldn't. His legs were kind of, shriveled up. He couldn't. And he had to have crutches and everything. And most people would think, "Oh, my poor son," But they treated him like you have to go up and down the stairs, use your crutches. And later on, he became a scuba diver, and he's down in Singapore right now. And he's known, and he does some of the Olympics for handicapped and everything.
Wow.
But he said when he was little, his folks said, "Now, you're not going to be like other kids. You don't have the kind of legs, or you can't use them very well." And he went through the adversities, and he's a very strong guy right now. And so if you have a child who has something wrong with them physically, mentally, don't just give up on them and say, "Oh, they can't do anything." Help them get through that and say, "You can do it." And you have to challenge them. So parents, if you have a child who has some problem, think about this. Don't just say, "Oh, they can't do it." Help them.
There's so many inspiring stories that you can see on YouTube and
That's
other
right.
places of people with amputated limbs or deformities that have really succeeded in a certain way. It's very inspiring.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we have Mei Lian Hua, a good artist here in Taiwan, who is beautiful painting, but she, is handicapped. And we see this all the time, handicapped artists. So don't let those things keep you from doing something in life. So these parents said, this will be a good example. And I think that was the right thing, don't you?
Right. I think that they can understand each other. She sees a little kitten, and I think the kitten would try everything because the kitten wouldn't realize it was disabled. So it's probably jumping and running around, and she can
Well, that's
probably
true.
think, I can do that too.
Okay, well, let's just read the last paragraph.
Love at first sight. The couple, along with Scarlett and their 3-year-old son Caden, picked up the newly named Doc McStuffins at the shelter. Matt Tipton said he could tell his daughter was already enamored. She's absolutely in love with the cat, he said. It took some coaxing, though, to get officials at the animal shelter to agree that a family with a rambunctious little girl was the right fit. I'm thinking, oh, they've got kids, and kids make it very difficult for me to want to place a very tiny, fragile kitten with them, said Eileen Sanders, a supervising registered veterinary technologist. Sanders said she was swayed when she found out about the girl's diagnosis. As the family prepared to take their new pet home, Sanders called the adoption a morale booster. We're all feeling a lot happier lately because of this cat and this kid, she said.
Well, that's one of those happy ending stories, and I kind of like stories that have a happy ending, don't you, Hazel?
Yes, I sure do.
Yeah, when they try to, tell stories nowadays, they don't always end like that. But this is interesting because when you say love at first sight, and you can see the pictures that they have here, if you have your magazine on page 16, they went along and they took little Scarlett and their 3-year-old son, Caden, picked up the newly named Doc McStuffins at the shelter. Isn't that interesting?
Cute name.
Right, that's a cute name, right? Doc McStuffins at the animal shelter. And I'm sure they were excited to go pick up this little kitten.
Yeah, and from the pictures you can see how well they're connecting.
That's true, right? And he could tell his daughter that when she just saw that, when she was enamored with him.
Right, enamored, falling in love with it, highly attracted to. You can see the word amour in there, which we might say amour, which is a French word, right? Mm-hmm. Amour, meaning love. So she was enamored, falling in love with this little kitten.
The cat. Oh, here you are, and you can't deny got an arm like this.
Yeah.
And she can associate with it right away. That was a very good idea, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you could identify with that cat. They both had an amputation.
Now we find out then that this little girl also had a brother, right?
That's right.
So the brother had 2 arms, and the girl would think, well, I can't be like my brother, So that would make her really feel bad, too. But this way, there's something that she could associate with. And I think that was a very, very good idea.
Right. And, of course, there's 2 little children in the family, and so it took some coaxing to get the officials at the animal shelter to agree to give up this little kitten to this family.
Right. Well, in fact, this little girl, she's rambunctious. And that's a word that we often say for children who are very lively. You can say, you're a bad girl or a bad boy. No, they're just jumping around. And it's typical of 2-year-olds anyway.
I think of too much energy, right? Yeah. Don't be so rambunctious. You've got too much energy right now.
Yeah.
So difficult to control.
Yeah. Very lively, right?
You say settle down. And it's a great word when kids, like you said, Doris, are really naughty, and you don't want to say, oh, those kids are so bad. You can say rambunctious.
Well, you can see why this vet, Eileen Sanders, she said her job was, she's supervising these, the technologist there at this vet place, and she said, I'm not very sure about having kids there because I don't want to put this little tiny baby kitten that's so little, it's fragile, it's sick and everything, with these rambunctious kids. They might hurt it, right? You could see why they'd feel that way, couldn't you?
Sure. In fact, a lot of places probably have policies in effect where you're not allowed to give a small pet to a family with children. So she may have even had to talk some others into it. So she needed coaxing. She needed someone to talk her into that. Maybe they begged her, please, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
And you can see from the pictures that the little girl was so enamored. She thought, oh, I want to be, and she loved it right at the beginning. So then that kind of swayed the vet. When you sway somebody, what does that mean?
It means to persuade someone to to persuade someone.
When she found out about this little girl, her diagnosis was that she had this kind of a cancer and that she needed something like that. So she found out the background more, and that persuaded her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's right. And so as the family prepared to take the new little pet home, the new kitten, Doc McStuffins, Sanders called the adoption a morale booster.
Right.
Everyone felt encouraged. Everyone felt happy about the situation.
Right. So a morale booster is something that makes you feel better. Sometimes we can say, oh, my morale is low today. I'm kind of discouraged, or my morale is high today. And I think morale is very important because we can't do our job well if our morale is low.
Right. It's like your mental or your emotional state.
How would you explain morale more? Your feelings, kind of?
Yeah, whether you're high or low, feeling up
Whether
or
you
down.
feel that way. You're right.
Yeah,
And
the way that you
physically,
feel
you might be
morale.
okay, but mentally, you just don't feel ready to do it.
Right. So
Maybe regarding-
sometimes a sports team, our morale is low. Maybe they've lost a few games, or maybe they had
Their
a
la-la
chance to
voices,
win.
come on,
and
you know,
they
just-
lost, and so the morale is low.
Well, sometimes when people are just, you're studying and you're tired and you want to go out and eat something good, like a bowl of noodles or an ice cream sundae or something, that could be a morale booster too, couldn't it?
Yeah, so let's boost our morale. Let's do something fun. You might tell a friend that's discouraged, come on, let's do something fun. Let's go have a good time. And you're trying to boost their morale, make them feel better.
Right.
I think morale
The
has to do
changing,
a lot with our tasks
That's very
as well.
important. So they all felt better. They said, we're feeling a lot happier today because of this cat and this kid. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, the kitten doesn't know that it's supposed to have an extra leg. So the kitten will be trying all kinds of things, and I think that will encourage the little girl to just try things too, even though she's a little bit different right now.
Well, Hazel, I've seen dogs and stuff even running around or on the street or something. They'd have one leg amputated and they go around on 3 legs. And they seem to get around.
And probably many of you saw the YouTube video of the little dog named Faith that was born without front legs, and one lady said, no, I'll take it. And one day the dog just got up and started walking on its 2 hind legs, and just that's the way it gets around. It just walks all over the place. So you never know. Dogs don't realize that they're disabled, and they just do their best.
They see everybody else and walking around.
And the same with the kitten. It's probably jumping around and having a good time. And actually, some disabled children are taught like that. No, it's okay. Just try to be normal. Just do usual things.
And there are a lot of disabled kids, not only babies, but things happen. Our kids get into accidents, and it depends on how you take it. And their morale will be very low if you say, well, you can't do anything or don't do that. Don't be overprotective of them, because if you are, their morale will be low. Let them say, yes, you can do it, but help them do it. Don't you think that's an important thing to learn from this lesson?
Yeah, I think so.
It's all about encouragement.
And about encouragement, right. Whether it's a pet or whether it's a person, let's require some things that they can do, but also encourage them to say, do everything you can. And don't have low morale just because you're not as good as everybody around you.
That's right.
And that could be even as far as some people in school, they don't get all straight A grades, get C's, and they're not the first one. Hey, don't let that have low morale. You may not be able to do as well as another person, but I think this can also apply to other things in our lives, don't you?
Sure. And I'm sure we all know of a very famous speaker, a young man named Vic Vitucci. I think that's how you say his name. And he doesn't have arms or legs, and yet he's a great speaker. He
Goes around in a
serves, he does all
wheelchair.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, he got married. He has 2 little children now and a beautiful wife. And his he said his mother didn't pamper him at all.
Yeah.
In fact, she'd put things on shelves where she knew he couldn't reach it, and he would say, "Can you get that for me?" "No, you need to get it yourself." And he would have to figure out how to do that. And so, you can't. You have to have just the right degree of challenge.
Right.
Don't
make it
not
impossible.
Pamper too much. Right.
If you make it impossible, they get discouraged. So you have to figure out something they can do, but give them a challenge, right?
Right. And so now he's inspiring so many others.
He's been to China and all over.
Yeah,
He's been to Asia, and he's got a great, testimony of what he does.
That's right.
Yeah. So this can be not just about the pets, but if you have children who have any kind of disability, help them be the best they can and do more than they think they can do. Don't let them say they have to measure themselves by everybody else. So from this lesson, we can learn more than just a little girl and her cat, can't we?
Yeah, that's right. All things are possible. All things are possible, and
Where there's life, there's hope.
right, that's right. And you're not alone.
And
You're
that's the
not
same
alone.
way with practicing your English and learning it. If you keep listening in, you'll be surprised how much you can pick up, and you'll have more of a compassion for the world, but will also be able to overcome certain things that seem unsurmountable in your life.
That's right. That's right.
So even learning English is not unsurmountable, right? Or learning Chinese, Hazel. Let's keep at it.
I know.
It works both ways, But we have to still keep trying, don't we?
That's right. Don't give up.
So thanks for being with us for these different kind of articles that we have. We'll have some challenging business articles and some good travel articles and things ahead. But this is a good start in the month. It's the middle of the summer, so just stick with it. And there's nothing that you cannot do if you have faith and hope. Okay?
Right.
So thank you for being with us today, everyone. Goodbye now.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.